So it really comes down to what we call a unique advantage point. There must be some sort of secret sauce that you have that is
mhm.
that if we can package it, put it into a system and define it, that is a reason why your results are so uncommonly different from everybody else in your industry. What is that? And so as they begin to unpack it and they put it into a framework, that becomes their unique advantage. Our
Okay.
predictable profits operating system, we're the only company in the world that has a framework for 6, 7, and 8-figure companies looking to create predictable profits month after month, year after year. That becomes our unique advantage point as opposed to our competitors that will
Mhm,
oftentimes say they're trying to differentiate themselves based on where they went to school
mhm.
or what course they took or how many years they've been in business and that makes it's a very difficult proposition.
All right. Welcome to Winner Cycle podcast with Jay, covering for Jay. I'm Dr. Osaretin Agbonavbare. So this is a powerful conversation with leaders who don't just grow businesses, but they build a category of leadership. And today's episode tackle a belief that most entrepreneurs never question: what competition is unavoidable, and what if competition isn't the problem? That could be a question you may be asking. And what if weak positioning is? And because you position your business in a way that you want to compete with prices, you don't want to chase inconsistency, you don't want to also fight for attention. You want your customers to come to you and all of that. So it becomes so obvious for us to choose this path. So joining me today is Charles Gaudet, the founder and the CEO of Predictable Profits and the architect of the Predictable Profit Operating Systems, a proprietary growth methodology that has helped hundreds of 7 to 6 eight figures companies escape the feast, which you could also say like a farming cycle that creates a predictable over month revenues. So Charles specializes in revenue architecture, designing systematic approaches to demand creation, captures, and also conversion. It helps to establish companies to install scalable growth operating systems, engineering world-class sales procedures, and also build businesses that no longer depend entirely on the founder, but they could actually become sustainable. So in today's conversation, we want to unpack why businesses accidentally tend to look inward for themselves, what strategic shifts that can eliminate competition, and what proprietary positioning drives a predictable profit, and how design a market strategy you could also own. So because strong companies don't just compete, they dominate through design. So that's why we have Chas today in the studio. So welcome today to the Winner Cycles. Chas, you want to say
Thank
hello,
you.
hello to our audience?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So Chas, you said businesses don't need to compete. I'm wondering, what do you really mean by that?
Well, I mean, here's the interesting thing. In today's environment, things are moving so fast right now, right?
Okay.
And so with things moving so fast, it's almost impossible for one business to actually know it all and so forth. And so we find some of our best relationships happening by collaborating with other competitors. I
Okay.
mean, I have helped to coach three of the largest coaching companies within their niche in the entire world. And technically, you could say that we're competitors, but on the flip side of the coin, we're also collaborators and we
Okay.
share what's working and what's not. Ultimately, when you look around, there's enough business for everybody out there.
Okay.
And it's more or less, there are going to be some people that are going to be better fits for predictable profits. There are
Mm-hmm.
going to be some people that are going to be better fits for that of our competitors.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we look at it is having more of an abundant mindset and focusing more on the client and
Mm-hmm.
saying, okay, just based on what you're looking for, who's actually going to end up being the best fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get much more strategic because if you think about it, you're not going to close 100% of all deals.
Okay.
And so let's say you close 30% of deals.
Okay.
And then that means you got 70% of deals that you don't end up closing. So you can take those 70% of deals that you don't end up closing. You can either go, well, I can't do anything with them and I'm just going to throw those leads away.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could say, well, that 70%, maybe they weren't a good fit for me, but they could be a better fit for somebody else. So you
Yeah.
form a
Correct.
partnership with a competitor and say, let's make a deal. Of the people that enter our database after a certain period of time, why don't we we'll introduce them to you for a workshop. You do the same thing for us for a workshop. And if they end up buying, if I send you leads and they buy from you, you send me a commission. If you
Yeah.
send me leads and they buy from me, I'll send you a commission. And
Okay.
there's ways you can creatively work through that. But when you think of business as a collaboration to deliver the best intent for your client, the best value, everybody ends up winning in the end.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question just to follow up from what you're saying. So I'm wondering, why do many 7 to 8 figure businesses struggle with positioning?
I mean, they sound like everybody else, right?
Okay.
I mean, when you think about it, if you, for most people, if you just say, okay, I'm going to take my logo and I'm going to replace my logo with my competitor's logo and I'm going to do the same thing on the website. For
Okay.
most companies, that the messaging still remains true. And that
Okay.
becomes a problem because the average person right now is looking at 35 different sources of information before making a buying decision, right?
Yeah.
And
Correct.
so they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so as they're looking at all 36 actually, as they look through all these different sources of information before making a buying decision, how are they going to know what makes you different from everybody else? And that creates a problem. Because,
Okay.
you know, we people think about it, and yeah, I've had this conversation thousands of times when they
Hmm.
say, well, I deliver the greatest quality. Well, we're expecting that. I have
Okay.
great service. We're expecting that. And then they struggle and they're like, well, I don't know what makes me different. I mean, if you just take a website designer as an example, it's like, I don't
Okay.
know what makes us different. We do things creatively, we do things nice. So
Hmm.
it really comes down to what we call a unique advantage point. You know, there must be some sort of secret sauce that you have that is
Hmm.
that if we can package it, put it into a system and define it, that is a reason why your results are so uncommonly different from everybody else in your industry. What is that? And so as they begin to unpack it and they put it into a framework, that becomes their unique advantage. Our
Okay.
predictable profits operating system, we're the only company in the world that has a framework for 6, 7, and 8 figure companies looking to create predictable profits month after month, year after year. That becomes our unique advantage point as opposed to our competitors that will
Hmm.
oftentimes say they're trying to differentiate themselves based on where they went to school
Hmm.
or what course they took or how many years they've been in business or and that's a very difficult proposition.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to ask, like, it seems a lot of companies by themselves, unknown to them, they tend to take advantage of themselves, probably maybe because they don't have the opportunity to have a good prediction or position, like you said. So, what do you think would have been a reason that would make a company to be put in such a situation?
So and what type of situation, just so I'm
In a
clear?
situation where unknowingly they are not able to leverage on some of their things that make them unique, which will make it then become sellable to other client. As someone who had that experience, who is already building a business, so what do you think will make those companies to be in such position?
You know,
Hey, winners, have you got a business or brand that deserves to shine? I'm just saying this right now because I'm giving the opportunity for you to advertise on Winner Circle with Jay and connect with thousands of ambitious entrepreneurs and leaders who are about growth. It's all about growth. So, whether you are advertising a product or a service, secure your slot as low as $100. So, what are you waiting for? Email us at advert@winnercirclewithj.com. Here at Winner Circle with Jay, we just don't talk success, we create success. All right, see you soon.
I mean, again, I think it comes down to they're in a position where they don't see themselves unique because they've been so focused on delivering the best outcome. And many people, when they start a business, they have in this mindset that if I just do the best I can do, if I'm the best lawyer I can be, if I'm the
Yeah,
best consultant I can be, if I'm the best doctor I can be, if I'm just the best, then everybody's going to know that. And I'm going to it's going to be great and so forth. And all the business is going to come to me. And then they realize that they can be the best and then they can still lose business
yeah,
to inferior competitors.
hmm, yeah,
And so that's because they have no way of articulating what makes them the best or what articulates what makes them different because everybody else thinks they do the best too.
okay,
And the hardest thing is, I have another company. I have multiple different companies, and one of my companies is called Founders Fuel.
Okay.
And so when you have a physical product like Founders Fuel,
Okay.
Founders Fuel is easy to differentiate itself. We have a unique formula that
Mhm.
that nobody else can use because it's in a patented manufacturing process.
Okay.
So for that nature, Founders Fuel is unique. It's easy to be able to say why Founders Fuel is different. But when you sell a service like the one that I have,
Mhm.
it's much different because they can't see it. Like you can see this, you can't
Yeah.
see a service. So you have to illustrate it. And that's when if you were to go to, say, for example, predictableprofits.com, you'll see a diagram. And that
Okay.
diagram is the model that you take an intangible and then you make it tangible.
Okay.
And so, we'll do this with our clients where we want to make it something that is tangible, something they can see, but then you want to give it a unique name. What is that
Mhm.
name that you can give it so you can say we're the only one that has this framework?
Okay.
And if you look at some of the bigger companies out there, if you look at companies like Deloitte and BCG and McKinsey and these really, really big companies, well, much of their differentiating factors has to do with the frameworks that they build.
Okay.
And those frameworks are unique to them. And it also allows them to scale and make it less dependent on the founder and a whole bunch of other good stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah. So, what can you say are some of the common approaches or phrases that they can make business to blending to able to become more predictable, in your own opinion?
So how do businesses become more
Like
predictable?
what are some of the common marketing approaches that they could actually use to blending?
Great question. People oftentimes, I had this conversation not too long ago with the CEO of a $500 million company.
Okay.
It doesn't, a lot of times, we have these conversations with 6, 7, 8-figure companies, but
Mhm.
we still have conversations with bigger ones. And so the CEO says, we do marketing.
Okay.
And for some reason, his company had been for a while and they just kind of got stuck and he needed some help. How do we get above it? And I
Mhm.
was like, well, here's the thing. You can't do marketing. Nobody does marketing. And he looked at me like I was speaking a different language. And he says, what? And I said, you can't do marketing. And he says, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, marketing is a function. It's a function of how you create demand, capture that demand, and then nurture that demand.
Mhm.
So if we look at marketing as a function, let's look at this. How effectively are you at creating demand?
Okay.
And he's like, I don't know. So how effective are you at capturing that demand? Thousands of leads every single day, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you got it. What about nurturing that demand? I don't know. So 2/3 of entire marketing funnel operated in the dark.
Okay.
When your listeners are sitting there going, okay, how do I bring in more predictability? There's a lot of different things that tie into it, but you specifically mentioned that in marketing. In
Mhm.
marketing, it is create, capture, nurture demand. So when you think of create demand, so much of the buying process happens before we even know they exist.
Okay.
They're looking at your competitors, they're looking at review sites, they're looking at social media. They go through the cycle of exploration and evaluation and exploration and evaluation.
Okay.
And so the way we measure that is what we call brand recall. And I write about it in the Predictable Profits Playbook. And in brand recall, it's the number of times somebody actually goes to your URL, types it inside of
O-
Google,
Okay.
your URL.com, and then plus the number of times somebody searches your brand name.
Okay.
You add that together, and you'll see a 1-to-1 correlation between brand recall and revenue. So that tells you that when somebody's ready to make a buying decision, they're going to go ahead and they are actually going to type in that information.
Okay.
This is more important than ever because this is another conversation that I had just recently.
Mhm.
Social media, for anybody that's been real big on social media, they're going to notice that their likes and their engagement have gone down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's because the lurkers have gone up. When I say lurkers have gone up, you get more and more people that are on social, they're reading your posts, they're
Yeah.
consuming content, but they don't want to follow, they don't want to hit like, they
Yeah.
comment because they're afraid that if I like your stuff or if I comment,
Mhm.
then I'm going to just raise my hand and say I'm ready, and then I'm going to get swarmed with all of this outreach, right?
Yeah, the
And
algorithm.
so, right, so it's like they're quiet, but we still have to do that, and we can measure the effect in another way.
Yeah.
And then capture that demand. Well, that's when they become much closer. That's when they identify themselves, whether it's through landing pages, and you can use other
Mhm.
strategies like outbound or sell by chat and a whole bunch of other things.
Mhm.
And then the nurture that demands, well, we know that people buy to the extent which they consume content. So
Okay.
buyers have to consume that content. Consumption drives conversion. And so with that nurture demand, you want to bring them more stuff to then consume. Again, it's
Okay.
consumption drives conversion. so
Okay.
that by the time they move into sales, they're buyer-ready leads.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something that most people don't know, and this is a
Mm.
big deal. This
Alright.
is when people understand what I'm about to tell them right now, this is going to give them a massive leg up, a massive advantage
Okay.
over everybody else out there. And most people don't know this.
Okay.
By the year 2030, it is estimated
Okay.
that 100% of all high-ticket sales decisions will
Hmm.
happen without interacting with a salesperson.
Ooh. Wow.
This has been backed up. I have data that supports this decision by
Yep.
McKinsey, data supporting this decision. I think it's Forrester or Gartner, because our buyers are researchers. They want to do all the work ahead of time
Mm-hmm.
and then be able to make this decision. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that the B2B salesperson will be, or the high-ticket B2C salesperson will be gone. It means they change roles. It
Okay.
means by the time I get on the phone with you, I have already decided I want to work with you. Now,
Okay.
all we need to do is design what it is, go through legal, add the fine
Mm-hmm.
touches, whatnot. But I already decided I want to work with you.
Yeah.
So you need to be able, and everybody, and this is the type of thing that we need to start thinking about. How do we sell without meetings? How do we get people to want to do business with us
Mm-hmm. Without meeting
before
them.
they get on the phone with us? Sell without meetings. And that is going to be the next advantage of business owners are going to understand how they sell without meetings. And a big part of that is going to be in that setup and how we create, capture, and nurture that demand.
Okay.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. So most of our audience are founders. Majority of them, there's something they've been looking at because of the coming of AI. And I just want to ask: so, is this better for a founder to eliminate competitors with the use of AI, or just outperform them and just move ahead? Elimination, like you're taking them out, so knockout. But or is it better for them to just outperform them and keep on doing what they're doing?
Yeah. So, the best thing for you to do is be as strategic as you can and focus about yourself and delivering the result.
Okay.
Because the way that AI is working right now
Mm-hmm.
is that AI is building an expert profile on you and an expert profile on your business.
Okay.
And here's what goes into this expert profile. They look at third-party reviews, not reviews on your website. They look at third-party reviews like Google reviews,
Okay.
and they feed that into the profile or
Okay.
Clutch or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
they look at content that you're writing on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
on Quora, on Reddit, anything that might be in press, articles that are written
Yeah.
about you, podcasts that you've been
Penetrate.
on.
Okay.
Yeah, all of that gets fed into this expert profile.
Mm-hmm.
What they do look at on your website too is case studies, because case studies you can't really fudge. They're going to be very specific if it's structured correctly. Those
Okay.
case studies will be fed in the expert profile.
Okay.
And so now you got this expert profile. And so it's
Mhm.
like, okay, the reason for this is AI is fighting for survival.
Okay.
If I go ahead and I'm like, hey, recommend a dentist to me,
Mm-hmm.
and they turn around and they recommend a dentist, and I got a experience, the odds of me going back to AI and asking for a referral goes way down.
Okay.
So they need to make sure that when I ask it for feedback, that the feedback that it gives me is going to be spot on.
Okay.
So it's going to understand you. It's going to understand me. It's going to
Okay.
create the best match. But
Okay.
in this expert profile, if you're a generalist, if you're like, I serve everybody and I can help everyone out there,
Mm-hmm.
AI is smart enough to recognize that if you're too general, you're probably not an expert. If all your content is AI generated slop without much thought, you're probably not an expert. And so they reduce it. But if they go, okay, look, you are a manufacturer
Yeah.
and you're looking for a web designer,
Yeah.
and this web designer specializes in working with manufacturing companies,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a better expert profile than every competitor that focuses on manufacturing companies and all that other stuff, they're going to recommend you.
Okay.
And the danger is if you don't focus on building this expert profile,
Yeah.
and I type in your company name and I'm like, Acme Corp reviews,
Yeah.
and it shows up, what it's going to do is it's going to say, well, this company has been around for a while. It looks like
Mm.
they're doing okay. There's a few red flags because there's not enough reviews, not
Yeah,
enough this and
yeah.
that. Would you like me to recommend 3 more companies that could be a better fit?
Okay.
And then it'll recommend your competitors.
Ooh.
So
Mm.
I spoke to somebody over at OpenAI about this, ChatGPT's main company.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to somebody over there about it, and I said, "This is what we see. This is what's going on. Is this actually true?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "This is what is really important for people to know. There's going to be no room for mediocrity in the future. Only the best will end up
The
getting the
best.
traffic."
Okay. That's a big point you just made because a lot of persons are still struggling to even harness the power of AI. And if they don't have the right content out there, the right information, like you talked about the case study, it means it becomes even difficult to compete. So I just want to ask a question. Is it better for you to improve an existing market or just create your own category?
I mean, you want to make sure that you pick a tight category. So if you're an existing business,
Yeah.
what you want to do is we call it a super consumer. You want to say, okay, so who's generating the most amount of what is most similar about the people generating the most amount of money with us,
Mm-hmm.
giving us the greatest reviews, we have the highest profit, we do the best results, like everything else, right? And then you find
Okay.
that tight little niche, and that becomes that market you want to focus on. Now, if you're brand new, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't really know like what I should do, then you want to find that underserved market, the market that just, people tend to overlook that you
Okay.
can serve. One of the traps that people get into quite often is they go, "Oh, I'm going to serve an enterprise client because they're the ones that have the most amount of money. So I'm going to go
Mm.
the big companies of the world, the FedEx, the IBM, the Coca-Colas, the this and that, because they get the big pockets." But then they don't understand how enterprise and the buying journey of enterprise is so different from a buying journey of a small business.
You okay?
And the vast, vast, vast majority of companies out there are much better off focusing on small business or
Okay.
and medium business because they're rational buyers. They think in terms of ROI and an impact and return versus an enterprise buyer. They think in terms of, is this the safest investment that I can make? Because if I make a bad decision, I'm going to get fired.
Okay.
And so God could come down himself. He could write a proposal. Everything could be perfect, perfect pricing, perfect everything, and give it to an enterprise buyer. But if they're not familiar with who you are, you're not going to get the deal
Okay.
because it has to be safe. So that's why it's even when you pick a market, you also got to make sure that within the market that you're picking the right buyer within that in that category.
Okay. And I think you talked about a little bit about where people get sales because it's being personalized to them. So want to ask, how do you make sales more repeatable? Because that's what every business owner will want to do. That people who come to buy their goods and services want to come in repeatedly, not just selling personalized information that they may not need, but they just want the conversion to increase over time. So how will you make those sales become more repeatable?
Well, it depends which business we're talking about. Because are we talking about an e-commerce type of business? Are we talking about a high ticket sales situation? It all kind of does depend a little bit on the industry.
Let's give a case study of e-commerce because
Okay.
that is what a lot of people are into. You're solopreneur and freelancers. So many persons want to start something. They start with selling things. So how would those sales become repeatable?
So I like to say everything works and nothing works at the same time.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I went to this big event out in California. I brought my team with me. There was all these successful 7, 8-figure founders in the same room.
Okay.
And this person said, "Hey, this is what works." This person says, "This is what doesn't work." And they went
Mhm.
all weekend talking about here's what works and what doesn't work.
Okay.
And at the end of the weekend, I sat there with my team and I said, "What did you learn from this experience?" And they go, "Oh my
Okay.
gosh, it seems like everything works and then nothing works at the same time. If you cross everything out, then you're left with nothing." And I'm like, right. So
Okay.
it all comes down to what we call OSI, optimization, systemization, and innovation.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're going to do, because there's a million different strategies that are out there. Whatever it is that you're going to do it and then optimize it until you have it working. But here's the thing. If you look at a strategy that you're going to deploy, there's
Okay.
multiple different factors that actually end up making that strategy work.
Okay.
Most people look at just the outcome. Did I
Okay.
drive sales or did I not drive sales? And when
Okay.
they realize I didn't drive sales, they throw away the whole strategy and they
Mhm.
go for something else.
Okay.
But if you look at all the different variables that actually have to exist between when the moment somebody starts the buying process to when somebody ends, you realize that most of it is actually working, but
Mhm.
there's just a little part of it that's not working. You fix that little part of it and you get that particular strategy working.
Okay.
So a perfect example of this was we had a client that came to us and they said, we need more leads.
Okay.
And I said, why do you need more leads? Because the leads that we have are junk. Why are the leads junk? Because nobody's showing up for their sales calls. I said, okay, I have to be real careful because I don't like the patient diagnosing themselves. So
Okay.
before we just give you a strategy for bringing in more
Mhm.
leads, let's unpack what's actually going on. What we actually discovered when I went through this process is that the
Mhm.
calendar invite was never actually going out to their clients. So that's why they weren't showing up to calls
Mhm.
because they were getting no calendar invite.
Mhm.
Once that was fixed, they had more leads than they had salespeople to handle. So
Mhm.
they actually had a different problem. But this happens all the time. We worked with an e-com company and they were having a problem. Boom, boom, boom. Leads aren't converting. Leads aren't converting. So I pull up my cell phone while we were on the call with them. And I
Okay.
said, I'm trying to buy this project and I can't because your pop-up, I can't close it and it's in the way of the buy button.
Okay.
So I'm like, you're coming to me and spending all this money with me
Yeah.
to help you drive more sales. But your biggest problem is that no matter what I do, nobody can buy it anyway because
Yeah.
you haven't gone through the buying process yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things in there.
Mhm. Mhm.
People try to overcomplicate it. In most
Yeah.
cases, you don't have to do more. You
Okay.
look at what you're doing right now and make it better.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of our listeners who are 7 and 8 figures funders are usually competing or being stuck with prizes and referral. So, what is the first move they need to do? Because they are like, just like you talked about, they're not getting the right referral, they cannot compete with the price and everything, and they want to build their business and make more money. So, what's the first step or some steps that you think they could actually take to able to compete with those prices or referrals?
So
Hey, winners, as we continue our journey together today, I want to share something truly special with you. Over the years, I've had the privilege of coaching countless business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, guiding them to achieve breakthrough results and unlocking their full potential. So I'm opening up just 4 slots for my monthly business coaching program. That's right, 4 slots. After being fully booked for the past 3 years, if you're ready to elevate your business with personalized guidance, proven strategy, and a supportive community, I'm here to help you navigate challenges, refine your vision, and achieve your goals. So if you're committed to taking your business to the next level, I want to hear from you. Reach out to me directly at jay at winnercirclewithj.com and discuss how we can work together to build the future your business deserves. So don't wait. This is your moment. Join Winner Circle and let's embark on this transformative journey towards success together. And now let's dive back into today's episode.
oh, there's a few different things. Again, remember it's create demand, capture demand, and nurture demand. And so we have to look
Okay.
at all three. Familiarity creates that trust. And so if you become the most familiar, then you can go ahead and, actually sales don't have to work that hard.
Okay.
Here's an example. I won't give you his name because let's just say you know who he is.
Okay.
He is a very popular influencer on LinkedIn. And he
Okay.
makes over 100, not on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Okay.
He makes
Instagram.
over $100 million a year just on Instagram, right?
Okay.
With all the deals that he brings in.
Okay.
He's known as a brilliant marketer.
Okay.
When I went to his landing page and went
Mm.
to how he drives sales, it was
Mhm.
terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Okay.
But he's making all this money. And the lesson in this is the reason why he's making all this money and doesn't have to worry about the color of the button, a big flashy headline, all this other stuff is because his content is so great. People have decided in that very moment when they are consuming his content that they want to do business with him. And so they've decided they want to do business with him. So they will go out of their way. They don't care about the size of the button or the color of the button, whatnot, and they'll go ahead and they'll do it. Remember, we talked about sales without meetings. He
Yeah.
does such a good job creating that content and creating that demand.
Yeah.
People will they're just crawling over to do
Yeah.
business. So the first thing that you have to do, because our buyers are researchers, the first thing you have to do is create that content, build that audience, get people to want to do business with you so that
Okay.
as they visit your website and as they
Mhm.
jump on a call, they've already preconditioned they want to do business.
Okay.
Consumption drives conversion. That's a big change that happened actually in 2020. Before that, the buying cycle is much shorter. You can run ads, somebody will turn around and buy, much shorter, much easier. After
Okay.
2020, it became much more complex, a
Mm.
lot more people in this cycle of, exploration and evaluation.
Mhm.
One of the top digital marketers in the world, he asked me, how do I shorten my sales cycle?
Mhm.
And I asked him, I go, are you still optimizing for conversion? And he said, yeah, what else am I going to do? I said, that's
Okay.
the problem. Optimize for consumption first. When you optimize for consumption
Okay.
and then conversion second, the more people consume, the more they become buyers.
Okay.
When we looked at the difference between our buyers who bought between 0 and 90 days and those who bought between 90 days and 2 years from now, the one commonality that those buyers had was once they consumed enough content, they purchased.
They purchase. Okay.
So the best thing, here's another example. I flew up to Atlanta. I'm in
Okay.
Atlanta. I'm sitting at this dinner table. I just happen to be the only one that didn't fly in on a private jet. Everybody else flew in on a private jet except for me.
Yeah. It's
Um,
okay.
I guess it is what it is. So the gentleman over to my left, I said to him, I go, how did you become who you are? He's a well-known individual. Most people know who this guy is. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how'd you become who you are? And he said, most people didn't know me before 2020. I said, and you got a private jet and everything else? He goes, you know what bought my private jet? And I go, what? He says, LinkedIn. I
Ooh.
go, explain.
How?
He says, I started putting out content every day that resonated with people, that they enjoyed, and they kept consuming my content. And because they kept consuming my content, they would actively reach out to me and say, hey,
Yeah.
can we do business? And he said,
Okay.
he goes, look, I don't know how to grow a business like you do. I
Mm.
don't. I don't know how to do much of what all these other people do. The only thing I know
Yeah.
how to do is write on LinkedIn. And it was enough to get him his second private jet, not his first, but
Wow.
he just bought a second one. So, and one of his business partners was sitting next to me, and he goes, Charlie, he's so serious about this. On our flight over, he said to me, hey, what should I write about on LinkedIn today? And he's still writing his own
Mhm.
and putting out good quality stuff, and people are buying.
All right. So many of our audience, they are kind of confused between positioning and marketing. So I will appreciate if you clarify that part. Like, what should they be doing? Should they be positioning themselves right, or just keep on marketing? Because right now, competition is everywhere, AI is everywhere. So what should they be doing? Should they be positioning, or just keep on marketing using all the strategies that is out there?
So, before you do anything, when we walk our clients through and we go, okay, let's go ahead and let's grow you.
Okay.
One of the first things we do is we say, who's your super consumer? When I say who's your super consumer, it's who's the best client that you can work with. Tight niche, best client, understand who it is. Most people are going to market to average clients. Like, who's the
Mhm.
average of everybody? No, market to the best, because those are the people that create an outsized, disproportionate amount of revenue and profits to your business. Market
Okay.
to them. So it's like, okay, cool. So we know it on market to them, because if you have a message market match, if you can speak directly to them, you're more likely going to convert them. Then the next thing we
Okay.
do is, what is that unique advantage? What is the unique
Okay.
advantage that you bring to the market that nobody else does? If
Okay.
it's a product like Founders Fuel, then okay, you got something patented, awesome, great. If you have a service, then what is that service? How can you package it and create it in a way that you could say you're the only one that does it? So now
Okay.
you have the super consumer, you have your unique advantage, and then after that, it's like, what happens when somebody goes to your website?
Okay.
Are you actually, when somebody goes there, are you set up to convert them? A lot of
Okay.
people, they don't ha- they their website is a little messed up. In other words, they create too much friction. Their call to action is contact us or get a quote. But
Mhm.
that's not how you sell without meetings. If I don't know what you charge and I have to set a quote, or the buttons are hiding behind a pop-up or whatever
Mhm.
that might be, that becomes a problem. Get those three things dialed in, and now everything that you do on the marketing side of things
Okay.
goes a lot easier. If you're in
Okay.
B2B, look at your LinkedIn profile. If your
Okay.
LinkedIn profile is all about you, not how you support your client, well, then it looks like you're trying to get a job. You're not trying to generate leads. Right? So there's a difference between a LinkedIn profile for an
Mm.
employee versus a LinkedIn profile for a business owner. You want to
Yeah.
make sure, or a founder, you want to make sure that you're set up that way. Even your sales executives need to set it up to attract leads and deals,
Mm.
not as they're looking for a job.
Okay. One final question for you, Chaz. For a founder, most of our founders who are listening today, they really want to stop competing because they discover that the competition is quite high, and they want to start dominating their own market, their own niche, and all of that. So, what must they change tomorrow? So, if they listen today from what you've shared so far, what would they change tomorrow for them to start having for those things they've always wanted to see in their own business tomorrow?
Pick a tight market.
Okay.
No more than three core problems that you can solve. That 80% of that tight market will say that fits me. Like, for example, the three problems is people come to us saying, how do I grow my company faster? Or some months are feast, some months are famine. How do we create more predictability? Or then the third one is, how does the company become less dependent on me? Right. So that's kind of like the three things. And then create content all around that. Become the expert. That's not
Okay.
optional anymore with AI and the AI forward buyer's journey that we have right now.
Yeah.
If you try to go much more beyond that, you're just going to become invisible. Nobody's going to know you exist. AI has already told us this is what you need to do in order to be able to get rewarded by those algorithms.
Hmm.
So you have to be able to follow that process, or what will end up happening is you'll be left to nothing more than word of mouth and referrals.
Okay. So thank you very much, Chaz. But before we let you go, our audience would love to learn more about you, some of the things that you're doing. If you have some products that you would love them to learn more about, and if you have like a mentorship program or a website or anything at all at which our audience can connect to you. So we appreciate you share that before we close out for today's podcast.
Awesome. We have a number of resources over at predictableprofits.com. Again, that's predictableprofits.com. I wrote a book called The Predictable Profits Playbook, and they can get that for free, just a little bit to cover shipping over on predictableprofits.com. They can also connect with me over on LinkedIn. That's Charles Gaudet, Gaudet. If they tell me that they were on the winner's circle, then I'll go ahead and I'll accept them.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
they can connect with me over on LinkedIn, and I publish content regularly. If they do go to predictableprofits.com and sign up for one of our newsletters, we do workshops. Usually about once a month, we'll do workshops. This coming month, we're going to do a workshop all based around LinkedIn. Last month, we did a workshop where we help people build both business and personal wealth within that workshop. So every month, we kind of listen to what it is that our community wants, and we'll bring them in. And and we have a community, a free community that they can find on predictableprofits.com. And I'd say let's start there with get some of the free stuff that we have.
Okay.
And if it resonates, then we could talk about what makes sense moving forward.
All right. So thank you very much. What a powerful conversation we've had. A huge thank you to you, Charles, for breaking down something that looks so complex, especially in this digital landscape. What most businesses overlook in terms of predictable growth, how they can drive their own profit and all of that. It's been an incredible time talking to you sincerely, and I'm sure our audience are going to learn from it and even try to connect with you. It's just my own takeaway from today's episode is that competition is a symptom, and positioning is the solution. So you need to position yourself. It's not just running with the marketing, trying to compete with your competitors. You need to position yourself very well. That's why we have people like Charles who have shared a little bit about some of the things you could actually do in 2026. Not the way you do business in 2025 or 2024. You need to learn how to do business differently. So if today's episode has shifted how you think about growth and how you could do your business in 2026, you can subscribe. You can reach out to Charles. He has already given us an open book. Just mention that you are coming from the Winner Cycle podcast and you have an opportunity to interact with him and learn more about what has been shared today. I'm the host of today, covering for Jay and Dr. Osaretin Agbonavbare. It's been a great time talking to you. And once again, thank you, Charles, for joining us today's podcast. I hope our
Thank you.
audience have a great time, and we'll see you some other time.